Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live Blue Belt Financial Skills, crafting your financial your plan to financial freedom. You can take a friend, you can share the video. You can just type in where you're joining us from so that we know or we acknowledge you. Thank you for the continuous support. Robert Kiyosaki says financial freedom is available to those who learn about it and work for it. Financial independence is a mental, emotional, and educational process. Financial security, according to Brian Tracy, and independence is like a three-legged stool resting on savings, insurance, and investments. Jim Rohn also says, if you are not financially independent, by the time you're 40 or 50, it doesn't mean that you're living in the wrong country or during the wrong time. It simply means that you have a wrong plan. Today, again, we have Themba Mazibuko, who is a chartered accountant with more than 24 years of experience in corporate financial management and risk management. He also holds a master's in business administration. He is a trainer and facilitator and consultant in risk management, asset and liability management, and investment management. Over a period of 15 years, Themba has done presentations on personal financial management to several white-collar and blue-collar conference audiences. Most recently, for today's presentation, Themba is the author of an upcoming book, Manage Your Personal Finances Like a Black Belt. In that book, he expresses his firm belief that if you have a stream of income, anyone is able to retire within 5 years. He believes that to attain the black belt status in personal financial management, one needs to have had financial skills, the right mindset, or a developed level of consciousness and developed habits. Over to you, Themba.
Chafi, let me put you on the spot today by asking you an impromptu question. I know you were not prepared for it, but you have quoted so many people on financial independence. What do you think? Should everyone aim for financial independence, or it's for specific people?
I think my understanding, anyone can aim for financial independence because it's your attitude that contributes. If you're willing to learn about financial independence and implementing that which you have learned, you eventually get to it. Like Jim
Hi, Chafi, are you still there? Looks like we having a little bit of problem with load shedding here. Tafadzo seems to have been kicked out wherever she is at the moment. So let's just give her 2 minutes before she comes in. I think it should take 2 minutes or so for the backup power to kick in and for the Wi-Fi to be restored again. Tafadzo, are you there?
Yes, I'm back now.
Those are the issues that we have with load shedding and what have you. But I really liked your response. Essentially, what you were saying is that anyone who is willing to learn and go for it can actually be financially independent. And I'm happy, with that particular response. So let's just go into the lesson for today. And what I have done is just to project my slides. As you have rightly pointed out, Tafadzwa, we're talking today about crafting a financial independence plan. Today, it's all about passive income. At the end of our discussion today, I'm hoping that you will have a passion for generating passive income, because passive income is the income that you get without any effort. And that is the kind of income that will lead you to financial independence. So if I were to talk about two important terms that I will talk about today, it will basically be passive income. And later on, I will talk about frugality, which is basically a state of being economical in how you manage finances. The essence of money management is creating passive income. And that is essentially the quote for today. For some of you who have been following us, you would have noted that we have adapted the idea of the belt system, which is used in karate, to talk about increasing level of competence as far as managing finances is concerned. So far we've spoken about white belt, financial management skills, orange belt, yellow belt. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the green belt. And we are on a journey to black belt status. So we left with just the brown belt. And today we're talking about the blue belt, personal financial management skill. And it's all about passive income. It's all about being frugal in how we manage our finances. Let's just go back to our competence framework, which is a competence framework that I introduced at the beginning of these discussions that we've been having on personal financial management. So Tafadzo, with your permission, I don't think I'll be able to go through all the things that I would want to talk about on the blue belt today. Essentially, what I will talk about is the hard financial skills in terms of how to craft a financial independence, plan. At this stage, if you've been following us, I'm hoping that you believe that it's very important to have a game plan in life, a personalized game plan. This is not a game plan that you borrow from somebody else, but it speaks to the purpose, to the reason for your existence. So today I will show you how to do a personalized financial independence plan. For some, that financial independence plan may take 5 years to execute on, for others 10 years, and then still for others even 20 years. It all depends on the application of knowledge. In my book, I nail my colors to the mast, and I'm very bold by mentioning that I believe that it's something that can be done in 5 years. So at the end of this presentation, I will show you a 5-year financial independence plan that I did for a friend of mine. I will not mention his name. Let's just call him Joe Sop. He came to me at the beginning of 2021 and said, Temba, can you help me make a financial independence plan? So I will show you what it is that I did for Joe Sop and some of the things that we spoke about. But generally, I believe that at each level of competence, you need hard financial skills. You need a developed level of consciousness, which we are referring to as a mindset. And then you need habits. I'm not going to talk about mindset today, neither am I going to talk about habits. I'm just going to focus on the hard skills that you need at blue belt level, which is the ability to craft a financial independence plan. That's what we are talking about. Before we move any further, let's just define what financial independence is all about. What is financial independence? Financial independence is achieved when you have created a monthly passive income which is greater than your monthly expenses. Think about the budget that we have taught you to do at the Orange Belt level. That budget will show that you've got a certain level of monthly expenses. If you are then able to create a passive income, now let's just define what passive income is. For the purposes of these lessons, we categorize income into two groups: active income and passive income. Active income is income that you need to work for. So when you have to work and go to a job somewhere where you are employed and you are paid a salary, that salary qualifies as active income because you have to put some effort to be rewarded with the income. Passive income is income that comes to you without any effort. It's automatic income. You don't have to work for it. Even if you decide to go on holiday, that income is still hitting your account, so to speak. So a good example of passive income is basically income from investments, income from investment in properties, income from investments in stocks, or income from business as a shareholder, such as dividend income. It's income that comes to you without any effort at all. At the Blue Belt level, we need to think about creating passive income. I know some of you have got your own definition of retirement. My definition of retirement, which is basically financial retirement, is that you retire when your passive income is greater than your monthly expenses. I don't believe in retiring at the age of 65. In fact, one of the goals that I have always had since I started working has been to retire at the age of 40, to get to a point where you create passive income, and that amount of passive income is greater than your cost base. That's what we are talking about. I firmly believe with all my heart that every person can reach this state, can achieve, this, because, and the advantage of getting to this stage is that you are then able to focus on your purpose and to do the things that you really enjoy in life, doing, such as traveling, such as, whatever you enjoy to do, in life. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy investing my money in sponsoring the preaching of the gospel and supporting ministries. That's what I would want to do. So when you get to that stage of financial independence, it affords you the space to be able to chase your dreams, to be able to execute on your purposes. And I believe it's something that we should all be, aiming for. I'm not going to repeat myself today, but in our last presentation, we did talk about the fact that there is a system in this world which forces us to retire at the age of 65. And when you retire, what has actually been found out is that very few people are able to maintain, their lifestyle. I don't know if you have heard this particular statistic. The statistic goes something like this: of all the people that are working today, only about 5% at the age of 65, which is retirement age, will be able to have a retirement income to support their level of expenses. In other words, the majority of people that are saving for retirement today will not have enough saved income to be able to sustain their lifestyle. Now, if you consider the implications of that statistics with two other insights that we are getting, then the picture gets worse. So the first insight is that people are living longer these days, right? So it's common for people to go even up to 90 years these days, 80 years. And by the time you get to 80 years, 90 years, you would have exhausted all of your retirement, income. The other insight that we are getting is that in the decades that have gone by, stock investments have achieved, reasonable returns. Let's just say average return in the last decade has been 10%. Going forward, because of the uncertainty in the world, it's unlikely that those levels of return will be achieved. Now, what it basically means is that your amount of retirement income would not have accumulated to a level which will support your monthly expenses. That's essentially what it means for what we're talking about today. Let me just look at something here. All right, that's what I wanted to do. So financial independence is achieved when the passive income that you generate is greater than your monthly, expenses. It's a very important, equation. Let's not call it an equation because an equation must have an equal sign. It's an inequality that we must always be mindful of when we manage, our monies. What it basically means is that on the one side, which is on the passive income side, we must be aiming for growth, right? When you do your financial independent plan, we make assumptions in terms of how you would want to grow that income. Essentially, that income should grow at a rate which is higher than your inflation. What it makes it difficult is that in a period of high inflation, which is what the economies of the world are experiencing at the moment, to have a very high growth rate becomes quite a challenge. But on the left-hand side of the equation, where we are talking about passive income, the idea there is growth. On the other side, on the monthly expenses, the idea there is being economical, being frugal. And that's where the word frugality, comes in. You will hear me talk about frugality later on when I talk about an ideal income model, which we should all be, aiming for. So the state of financial independence is when you have created an asset base, right? So number one, there I'm talking about an asset base. Asset base is we're talking about, assets that yield a return. We're talking about properties. We're talking about stock investments. We're talking about businesses. For some of you who may be entrepreneurs, who may want to build a business. So the thing about financial independence is you must have an asset base. And that asset base will generate passive income, which becomes your predominant source of income. We're not talking about earned income here. By the way, earned income is a poor quality, source of income, poor quality, because, think of a salary. I normally ask people, if you were earning 100 rands from your salary and you were earning 100 rands from dividends, which one is a higher quality source of income? The answer is dividend. Why? Because the day you get sick and you're not able to go to work, then you'll not be able to earn that income. Whereas dividends come to you even if you are asleep or on holiday. So whenever we talk about financial independence, we're focusing on passive income. There's some of you who might be asking yourself, Themba, I don't have passive income. The only income that I have is a salary. The only income that I have is commission income. What do I need to do? That's why I'm here. I'm here to teach you how to generate passive income, particularly at brown belt level. At brown belt level, we then go into detail in terms of generating that passive income. But for today, we just need to understand the concept. So your passive income is what you're going to live off, and it covers your expenses, but it also leaves you with enough to reinvest so as to build that asset base, so that it continues to give you the passive income. There has to be reinvestment there. That's a state of financial independence. There are people we have said, look, let's distinguish between financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom, because these are terms that you will hear people talking about. So let's just distinguish, that. Now that you have understood what passive income is all about, what is financial security? Financial security is where your passive income is equal to your basic living expenses. Right. If you look at some of the retirement programs that we have, they are aimed at financial security in your old age, so that the pension that you have is able to cover your basic living expenses. But what I would want you to know is that in all likelihood, in fact, it's almost certain now, for some of you who are saving for retirement, by the time you get to retirement age, that amount, that nest egg that you have will not be enough to cover your basic expenses. Why? Because as far as basic expenses are concerned, the rate of inflation is high. So expenses are increasing. But on the other side, investment returns are low because of the uncertainty that is happening in the world. So in all likelihood, and the other reason is that people are living longer, which is why we need to take this discussion that we are having very seriously. And you need to take ownership over, the creation of passive income in your life. So what I'm essentially talking about today is that in addition to all the pension arrangements that you have at your company, you need to put arrangements, because evidently your pension will not be enough by the time you retire. It was aimed at you achieving financial security, but you are not going to achieve financial security. And therefore, you need to take the future into your hands. What is financial independence? Financial independence is where passive income covers your current lifestyle. So we are talking about your current lifestyle. We're not talking about basic living expenses. Basic living expenses could be accommodation, food. That's basic. But now we're talking about lifestyle. You want to go on holiday. You want to replace certain assets. Financial independence is where the passive income is able to cover your current lifestyle. You might hear people also talking about financial freedom. Financial freedom is where passive income covers your ideal lifestyle. Some of you would want to drive Ferraris. You would want to go on holiday to exotic destinations. Those destinations that people talk about, whether it's in Africa or elsewhere. So if your passive income is able to finance that ideal lifestyle, driving a Ferrari, going on holiday, living in a mansion, then you have achieved financial freedom. By the way, these statistics that I'm giving you mainly come from America. I don't have statistics from South Africa or any of the African countries. But only 50% of the people are able to reach a stage of stability where they are covering, where their end income is covering their expenses. What it basically means is that if only 50% of the population are reaching a level of stability, in fact, let me explain it myself this way. There are 7 levels of financial freedom, right? The basic level of financial freedom, which probably some of you are at the moment, is where you need to have clarity. Yeah, you figure out where you are financially and where you want to go. You set a goal. That's the very basic level of financial independence. So think of financial freedom as a journey. Think of achieving financial independence as somebody climbing a mountain. You're not going to reach the peak in a few minutes. You have to travel a journey. And that journey starts with a plan. And that's what we are talking about, today. Second level is self-sufficiency. So self-sufficiency, imagine you are living with your parents, you are relying on somebody's income. Now you are sufficient. Third level is where you've got some breathing, space. You're no longer living on, paycheck to paycheck. That's what I was talking about. Only 50% of the population at the moment are able to get to breathing level. Most of the people are living from paycheck to paycheck. You probably might have heard the expression where people talk about the month being longer than the salary, right? It's because there is no breathing in a room. That can be achieved through budgeting. The fourth level is stability. Stability is where you do not have any bad debt, but you have got emergency, accounts. You've got an emergency fund. What am I saying here? I'm saying you do not just get to financial independence just like that. You need to put certain building blocks in place. The first building block is a plan. You need a plan, not the plan that somebody has given you, which says retire at the age of 65. Your own customized plan. That's what we are talking about. My plan was to retire at the age of 40, right? That was my plan. Well, when I started working at the age of 18, because I started working at the age of 18, so I had a plan. My father said to me, set a retirement goal. That's clarity. Then once you've got clarity, you move out of your parents' home. Then after that, you manage your affairs so that you don't live from paycheck to paycheck. You are frugal in how you spend. We are aiming here to save at least 50% of our earned income. That's the goal. If you earn a salary, by being frugal, you want to be saving at least 50% of that so that it goes into investments. In other words, you are creating a mechanism to convert earned income into passive income. If you don't do that, I get worried when people budget all their money for the month and they are not saving for the future. They are living from paycheck to paycheck. Guess what? When you are an old person, you will need to be sustained by the government. You will need to rely on welfare, so to speak. So the first building block is having a plan, managing your expenses frugally, reaching a level of stability. Stability is where you do not have any debt. You have created an emergency fund, right? Then you've got flexibility. Flexibility is where you have saved enough so that you can take a year off work, right? Then you get to financial independence, which is stage 6. Then you get to abundant wealth, which would be financial freedom, right? That's what we are talking about. So think of financial freedom as climbing a mountain, right? Climbing a mountain until you get to the luxury stage where you've got financial freedom. By the way, let me just press the pause button and express a concern that I have. The concern that I have is where I see people who have started working today, wanting to put on branded clothes, wanting to live a luxurious life before they have even generated a passive income. That's my concern. That's why Taffy and I do this on a regular basis, because if you do that, you are making a fundamental money management mistake. Some of the mistakes that I see people doing is funding their luxurious lifestyle using debt. Years ago, I read in a newspaper about a guy who had received significant amounts of money from a tender, a Transnet tender. He had participated in a government tender and he was paid a large amount of money. And then he decided to rent a penthouse where he was paying lots of money. He then decided to go to the bank and finance a Lamborghini on debt. We all know how the movie ends when it's like that. The fundamental mistake that that person had was they were very excited by large amounts of money, and therefore they thought that they had reached the luxury stage. But that money that they got from a tender was essentially earned income. It was not passive income. So all I'm saying is that don't get excited by earned income, because earned income is income that you are getting through effort. And that income tends to dry out very, very quickly. Haven't you heard stories of how somebody would win the lottery, the lotto? We call it lotto in South Africa. And they get a sizable amount of money, such as 10 million. And then they start living the luxurious life. and in no time the money is finished. So what am I saying? Don't live a luxurious life if you don't have passive income. The people that you see driving Ferraris have got businesses that generate dividends. They have got they have got an asset base, and that asset base generates passive income for them. When you have built that asset base, you are now entitled to live a luxurious life. So until you have an asset base to finance your luxurious life, I'm very comfortable in you being economical, living in the neighborhood that you have always lived before you even go to a mansion. Because if you try to finance your mansion using earned income, that might be very problematic. Haven't you heard of stories of somebody getting retrenched? By the way, I was talking to a friend of mine who is highly qualified, who works for a financial institution that I used to work for. And he was just telling me, Themba, the company is going through restructuring and there is a possibility that I may be retrenched. That's when I noticed that in some of these companies, it doesn't matter how highly qualified and highly experienced you are, you can be a candidate for retrenchment. So why don't you use the years that you have worked for a particular company to do the right thing? And the right thing is converting earned income into passive income, so that over years you are able to generate passive income from an asset base that you have built, over time. Before you embark on a process of financial independence, there are stages that you need to go through. So number one, there are preconditions. You don't just go onto a journey. Imagine if somebody is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and they want to reach the peak. You must be healthy. You must know how to handle high altitudes. You must know how to climb mountains. There must be preconditions. It's the things that you need to do first before attaining financial independence. So preconditions are things that you need to put in place first before embarking on that journey of financial independence. Then you implement the plan, right? Through a mind mapping exercise. There are so many journeys, there are so many routes to financial independence. Some people do it through the entrepreneurial route. They start a business and that business grows. Other people, they get promoted and they reach to executive level. They are entitled to shares. That's another route. So there are so many routes. Others believe in saving, just saving your income. Years ago, I read of a story of a bus driver who would, just chose to educate himself on share investments. So when he was not driving the bus, he would actually be studying shares and how to invest in shares. And he used his extra savings in investing in shares. By the time he retired, he was a millionaire. Right. So what we are talking about when we talk about implementing a financial independence plan, it's got nothing to do with the amount of money that you earn. Some people are under this strange idea that says, I need more money to save, so that I can be saved. No. You just need to be frugal, right? You just need to manage your cost base very well. On the other side, you need to develop the skills to grow your income, right? So let's talk about the preconditions. Think of the preconditions as the foundation that you need to put in place before building a house. So there are three preconditions here. Number one, emergency fund. Don't embark on a journey of financial independence if you don't have an emergency fund. And an emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. So if your monthly expenses are 100 rands, emergency fund of at least 300 rands, 300 to 600 rands. That's a building block. It's a precondition for financial independence. Being debt-free. So you need to get rid of unproductive debt. I have already defined to you what unproductive debt is. Here we're talking about credit card accounts. We're talking about clothing accounts. We're talking about personal loans. Oh, don't get me going. You know, some people even go to machonistas to borrow money, the loan sharks. Because you've been trained in financial independence, you are never going to go to the machonistas. Because once you start to go to the machonistas and to finance your monthly expenses using funding from loan sharks, then you are regressing in that journey of financial independence. Then you need to build a cushion of savings. So those are the three preconditions that you need to have in place. Now that you've got those three preconditions, let's now talk about mind mapping, implementing your financial independence plan. I'm referring to this as building your ideal income model, right? That income model has got two aspects to it. Number one, frugality. When I talk about frugality, I'm talking about not being wasteful in your spending. You know, there are certain people who are wasteful in their spending. I don't want to give you an example of what being wasteful is all about, but they have no regard for money. When they have got lots of money, they don't look at the 1 cent and the 10 cents. You know, that's not the mindset that we are looking for. So being frugal is being economical. It's optimizing scarce resources. Frugality works on the assumption that resources are scarce. So money is scarce. You know, I'm not having this idea that says money does not grow on trees. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about on the expenditure side, not being wasteful. Having this idea that even a cent can be invested and over time it's going to grow. That's frugality. It's about, if you've got assets that you have, it's about extending the useful life of assets. That's frugality. So in your income model, you need to be frugal as far as expenditure is concerned, but you need to have a growth mindset. Now, I've already explained this to you. And one of the things that I have explained to you is that as somebody who has embarked on a journey of financial independence, you need to know where inflation is. Because real growth is when you are growing at a rate which is higher than inflation. So your income should be growing at a rate which is higher than inflation. By the way, you've got three enemies in your journey to financial independence. Enemy number one is inflation. Whenever you hear economists saying we have entered a period of high inflation, just know that it's very difficult to achieve financial independence. I have heard of people in a country like Zimbabwe retiring, and by the time that they retire, their pensions have been eroded by inflation. That's what inflation does. Inflation erodes savings. Inflation erodes the spending power of money. Therefore, inflation is your enemy. So how do you deal with that enemy called inflation? There are so many ways of dealing with the enemy called inflation. Just make sure that you are growing your income at a rate which is higher than inflation. That's number one. Number two, if you are in a country which is going into hyperinflation, move into another country where the inflation rate is not that high, if you can. That's why people even migrate for economic reasons, because in certain territories, it becomes very, very difficult to achieve financial independence because of high inflation. So enemy number one is inflation. Enemy number two is costs. Costs. When I talk about costs, I'm talking about unnecessary costs, which is where frugality comes in. So if you are embarking on a journey of financial independence, you are not going to incur unnecessary costs. For example, let me just give you an example of why costs can actually be an enemy. Think of somebody maintaining a banking account, and in your banking account, you've got all these bank charges that you are being charged by the bank, and you're not being particular about why the bank is charging you those bank charges. Those are costs. Those costs are eroding your income base. So somebody who has embarked on a journey of financial independence is very mindful about costs. Another way in which you can demonstrate, cost consciousness is, for example, in a financial planner is talking to you. Ask them, how much do you charge in your course? Is it a percentage of income? How much does it cost? Anybody who answers that question is cost conscious. Enemy number 3 is taxes. Taxes. That's why when we talk about income in the context of financial independence, you do not count your income until it has passed through inflation, it has passed through taxes. So the actual income that we are considering as far as financial independence is concerned is income after tax, after the effects of inflation. That's what we are talking about there. Then the money that results from there, you save, you invest in equities. I invest in 3 things myself. My financial independence plan is based on 3 types of assets that I invest in. I invest in stocks, I invest in property, and I also invest in my own business. I have started my own business. So if you look at my asset base has got 3 types of assets. Your asset base can have as many assets as you want. Like Warren Buffett says, don't invest in an asset that you don't understand. I invest, that's my investment, one of my investment rules. I invest in things that I understand, right? There are so many people that invest in things that they don't understand. Don't invest in things that are shrouded in secrecy. Somebody just tells you that this investment will yield you an investment return of 200%, but you don't know what it is that they are doing. It's all shrouded in secrecy. Don't invest in those things. And then from that asset base, you're then going to generate. So what are some of the practical actions that I would want us to take after this presentation? Number 1, set a goal to achieve financial independence. And that goal should be smart. It should include a time horizon. My goal was to be financially independent within 5 years. I will show you a financial independence plan that I did for Josop. When Josop approached me in at the beginning of 2001, I did a 5-year financial independence plan for him, and I will show you it was done in Excel. Number 2, decide on a frugal lifestyle. When we talk about frugality, frugality is basically reflected by a percentage. How much of your income are you going to invest or save? That's being frugal, right? And also acquire knowledge, right? Acquire knowledge, receive coaching from people who have been financially independent. We have embarked on this journey of financial independence, or alternatively, once you have started that journey of saving money, give your money to experts who have got your interests in mind. Number 3, decide on the asset base, the assets that you're going to invest in. Obviously, that is a function of your competencies. That is a function of the knowledge that you have acquired over years, which is why we need to acquire knowledge. The last thing that I would want to do for this particular discussion or this particular lesson is just to show you a financial independence plan that I did. The reason why I'm showing you this financial independence plan is that you need clarity. As you embark on financial independence, you need clarity. And clarity is achieved when you've got a plan. So what I will do now is I will stop sharing my slides, and I will briefly share with you an Excel spreadsheet, which is the 5-year financial independence plan that I did for Josop. So Josop approached me in 2020, in December 2020, and then I said, Josop, he was earning a sizable, income. So I said, Josop, let's do your 5-year independence plan. Based on the work that I have done for Josop and they've done in my own life and for other people, I can nail my colors to the mast. I believe to the mast. I believe that it's possible for anybody with an income who understands these principles to retire within 5 years. This is not theory. This is not an imaginary thing. This is something that can actually be achieved and attained. So I say to Joseph, the effective date of your plan is 1st January 2021. That's when you begin your plan. The completion date of your plan, 31 December 2025. I'm regularly talking to Joseph, trying to see whether Joseph is on course. And the last time I checked with Joseph, he was actually on course. So after that, we then set retirement goals. You know, I'm talking about retirement goals, but these are financial independence goals. So at the end of the 5 years, he wanted to have a paid up house worth 6 million, right? He was currently at that stage, he was earning an after tax, because as far as these plans are concerned, you know, after tax, we only count after tax rands, after tax dollars, because before tax, we do not count that income, right? So he was earning 100,000 after tax monthly. So we then said, Joe, you need a plan to grow your income by 8% every year. You need, you know, we also need the inflation rate. You can see when we did this with Joseph, we made sure that the inflation, the income growth rate is higher than inflation. What it basically means is that, you know, in South Africa now, the inflation has been above 6%. What it means is that Joseph has to grow his income at a higher rate than the 8%, which was the assumption that we had when we initially did the plan, because inflation sort of sets you back. That's what inflation. So at retirement, Joseph wanted to have an income of 136,049 after tax. Now, I want you to note something. When Joseph came to me, his 100,000 per month that he was earning was earned income. So let me write here, this was earned income, right? This income, which he wants to achieve in 5 years, is passive income, right? That's the difference. It's not the same. So which means within those 5 years, we need to convert the earned income into passive, income. That's the essence of this plan. So I then asked Joe, Joe, which assets do you want to invest in so that we can build for you an asset base? So Joe said, I want stocks, I want property, I want a business, right? Then we did an asset split for him, and we said that's the massive, the monthly passive income that you will earn over time, so that at retirement, you will have an asset base of 13.7 million, right? That was the goal. So which means everything that has to happen between year 0 to year 5 is an accumulation of an asset base worth 13.7 million, right? Then, by the way, let me mention something which is very important, and don't forget this. Please don't forget this. This is free advice from Themba. Don't buy a financial product until you've got a financial plan. What precedes financial, some people come to you and say, invest in this, invest in that, invest. No, don't start investing in anything until you've got a plan. The first thing that you must have is a plan. And everything that you then do, whether you are acquiring stocks, you are doing this, must be in support and must be aligned to your plan. That's very, very important. Don't go around buying insurance products if you are not clear whether those products will lead you to where you would want to go, right? Have a plan. And everything that you then do, I see people just buying products from financial people. They are not even clear whether those things are supportive of their plan. So the first thing is a plan. Very, very important. And then you must begin to see how all of these things will fit into your plan, right? So we did this for Joseph. Joseph said, We even went to the extent of doing a monthly budget for Joseph and his wife, right? Where we then grew his income. And Joseph, I said to Joseph, every month, you must save 20% of your income, right? I said to Joseph, you must tithe. Joseph believes in the, in the biblical principle of tithing, right? And you must grow that tithe, over time. And that's how your budget must look like in terms of life insurance. I don't have time. And we say to Joseph, these are the assets that you acquire. Then we did, a stock investment plan on a monthly basis, which shows, how much is to grow and how much is going to do every time, so that by the end of the 5 years, he's got an investment base of, 2.4, from which he's going to get passive income. We also did a mortgage payment plan for him, because remember, he wants to buy a property which is paid off at the end of 6 years. We also, did all of those things for him. And for his business as well, coached him in terms of which business should he start, what income should be aiming for. And as I speak to you, Joseph is on course to achieving financial independence. And I believe you can be too. You can start a journey today of achieving financial independence, as long as you put the building block in place. Tafadzwa, before I hand over to you, let me just summarize some of the key messages that I have been trying to communicate in this particular coaching lesson. The first thing that I have been trying to communicate is that everyone needs a plan. You need a plan. You're not going to be financially independent without a plan. So everyone needs a plan. Very, very important that we understand that we need a plan. That's the first thing that we've been trying to communicate today. That plan must be customized. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 5-year plan. Some people may say 10 years might be fine for. I'll be able to craft a 10-year plan for you, as long as you're committed to stick to that plan. The other thing that I've tried to communicate today is that I'm looking into the future. And as I look into the future, there are so many things that worry me. I am worried about the investment returns that people are going to have in the next few years. I think we're going to see shocks along the way, whether it's a result of geopolitics or as a result of other things. And what that means is that for some of you who are working, your pension funds might not be able to support you. As I look into the economies of the world, I'm worried about the high inflation that we are experiencing. I worry because I know what inflation can do. Because I'm worried about those two things, I'm advising you today to be frugal in your spending, to look at innovative ways of growing your income, and look into putting the building blocks and doing financial management the right way. Those are the things that we have been talking about today. What I will do in the next installment of this presentation is to talk about the mindset. I didn't talk about the mindset today, which is a blue belt mindset. So I would want to talk about the mindset and some of the habits that you need to put in place. It's not just about crafting a plan. That plan is to be supported by a particular level of consciousness, a particular mindset that you must have. So we need to think about that mindset, but you must also have certain habits. We've been talking about habits over the coaching lessons that we have had. I hope you'll be able to craft your own financial independence plan. I don't believe you were born on earth to just get a job, live from paycheck to paycheck, and not achieve the goals that you have, and not be able to finance your ideal lifestyle. You deserve a life of luxury, but don't finance luxury using your debt. You will get there. You need to practice delayed gratification. You need to be frugal in what you do. But above all, you need a plan which you are committed to. Over to you, Tafi.
Thank you very much, Timba. I don't see any questions, but I've got a question myself regarding shares. How do you create a financial plan with shares, considering the unpredictability of shares? You know, when the COVID era came, there was a prediction that the health shares were going to give a good return, but I'm not sure whether many people got a good return from the health shares. Yeah, so my question is, with unpredictability of shares, how does one prepare a financial plan?
Very good, Tafadzo. Tafadzo, just to educate you, I know you read newspapers and you read, business reports. You might have picked up that the JSE index is actually 25% or 20% down from what it was at the beginning of the year. And the same is applicable for all stock market indices, whether it's in America or elsewhere. So you're totally right, in the sense that not only have we seen volatility, but we've actually seen some of these indices going down, right? In other words, if you started with shares at the JSE, you are actually probably worse off than you were at the beginning of the year. Let's just appreciate this. The first thing that I would want to appreciate is that shares go through ups and downs. So there are times when they go up in value, then there are times when they go down in value. But over the long term, that's why we're talking about a 5-year plan. The reason why I like a 5-year plan is that I'm trying to capture an economic cycle. Economies go through periods of expansion, periods of recession, and so forth. And the wisdom that has been there in economics since time immemorial is that a cycle is at least 5 years. So that's why we're talking about a 5-year plan, so that you can ride those fluctuations, the ups and downs in the market. By the way, investing and speculating are two different things. An investor has got a long-term mentality. So I don't allow you to invest until you can leave your money for at least 5 years, right? So if you're watching your money on a daily basis, it might look like there's a lot of volatility, but over the long term, at least 5 years, that's why we're talking about a minimum of 5 years. The stock market is the best of the markets that we have to actually beat inflation. You're not going to beat inflation by keeping your money in the bank. You're not going to beat inflation by investing in cash or investing in bonds or even other asset classes. Studies have shown that over the long term, in spite of the volatility that is there in the market, the stock market actually beats inflation over the long term. So that's the thing that I would want to highlight, there, which takes care of the volatility. The other thing that I would want to talk about is that with increasing financial education, we can be able to invest in the stock market. So there are certain principles such as diversification, principles such as buying quality companies that generate earnings. You can never go wrong by investing in a quality stock that is generating income, which is well run. So take, for example, Capitec yesterday, in spite of the spectacular results that they produced, the stock went down by about 10%, which is a huge amount of money. If you are educated in the stock market, you would have known why Capitec went down, because some people just go blind and invest in the stock market without crunching the numbers and educating, themselves. My belief is that in as much as Capitec has been a highly performing share, there is an extent to which the share has been overvalued. And what you saw was a correction, because at the end of the day, the stock price is a reflection of future earnings of a company. It's not, some people think that investing in shares is like betting on horses, where you are betting on a stock. That's not what it is. What it is that if you invest in a good quality stock, over time, you are going to win. Obviously, in our investment lessons, we also talk about identifying undervalued stock, and we also talk about entrepreneur, skills. My belief, and this is a belief that I have started, having over the, few years, an entrepreneur can beat the stock returns that we are having on the market. That's why I like investing in my own business, which I can then sell to somebody at some stage. That's the ultimate way of creating money. So when we start at the blue belt level, we teach people to invest in stocks, begin to understand the stock market. Over time, particularly when you get to black belt level, we now teach you how to start your own company, which you can then list on the stock market so that you can actually become the Bill Gates who becomes a billionaire, right? So let me just go over your question again, Tafadzwa. Your question was, based on the volatility that we have seen in the stock market, what is it that we can do to win in the stock market? Number one, have a long-term mentality. Now, when people are panicking, that's the time to buy. Where you identified undervalued stock, which are good quality companies, you have to do your research. You have to, if you are lazy to do that research, you may need to give your money to the experts who've got your interests in mind. So do research. Don't get discouraged about the stock market. Economies go through ups and downs. It's been like that since biblical times. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of drought. That's how the world has been. When we are in 7 years of plenty, we prepare for the 7 years of drought. We draw upon the resources during the 7 years of drought, knowing that the years of plenty are coming. That's how an investor always looks at things. They always look at things with a long-term view in mind. I hope I'm answering your question, Tafadzwa.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the response. Yes, you answered my question. Munyarazi Muflolo has got a question. He says, you say I must invest in what I understand. How do I get to know, for example, things like trusts or property, etc., so that I can invest in them? Then the second question by Munyarazi again as well. By property investment, do you mean paying up my bond?
Very good question. Very good. That's a multifaceted question, Munyarazi. So let's start with, because you started off by saying, how do I invest in things that I know? Munyarazi, investment is very simple. If you don't understand something, don't invest in it. Some people invest because you have heard somebody, a good friend of yours, saying, invest in this stock, it's going to go up. If you don't understand how that company makes money, you don't understand their business model, you don't understand management, that is, they don't invest in that stock. When I say investing in things that you understand, I'm essentially talking about research. What you will actually see is that the best investors are people who do lots of research. One of my best investors is the guy called Warren Buffett. If you were to go to Warren Buffett's house, he spends time reading annual reports of companies. Warren Buffett is a very interesting character. Let me just digress, Munyarazi. I hear people saying, don't drink sugar, don't drink Coke. Warren Buffett drinks Coke every day. He's about 92. I think he celebrated his 92nd, birthday or 93rd birthday. He's still very active. He's still involved in his company. The reason why he drinks Coke, Munyarazi, is because he has invested in Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola is one of the products that has given him money. So he's actually supporting his business. That's why he drinks Coke. That's when I realized that sometimes it's not necessarily the things that you drink or put in your mouth that cause you to live for long. It's purpose. At the end of the day, if you've got purpose, you've got a reason for living, you will live longer. But let me go back to your question. When I talk about investing in things that you understand, I'm talking about research. Warren Buffett does quite a lot of research before he invests in a company. When I talk about research, I'm talking about researching on management, researching on the business model, researching on a number of things, because the way the stock market works is that the people who have got more information than others, if you are an investor and you've got more information through research than other people, you are likely to make money, right? So when I talk about invest in things that I know, that you know, I'm talking about research. I'm also talking about supporting your investments and leaving the talk. For example, if you have decided to invest in Pick n Pay, then support Pick n Pay. Go and buy from Pick n Pay. By the way, Mnyaradzi, I actually, in my spending, I support the companies that I have invested in, right? I'm just giving an example here. Say I've invested in Checkers. You will never see me buying groceries from Pick n Pay because I understand Checkers. I'm investing. If I can see that their customer service is not that good and they are losing customers, then based on that experience that I know, I can then begin to invest in other companies. But what I also mean, Munyaradzi, by saying invest in things that I know, I'm basically saying when you are starting investment, start with shares. I have started with shares, then I now invest in derivative instruments, which are very risky instruments. I have now gone into cryptocurrencies. But there are certain people who just go into cryptocurrency. You don't even know what a cryptocurrency is. You don't even know how to value that particular investment. So when I talk about investing in the things that you know, I'm talking about, can you value that investment? Do you have a valuation model for that investment? I like the idea of a cryptocurrency, but I don't have a valuation model in a cryptocurrency. And therefore, I will not put lots of my money in cryptocurrency because I don't understand it, right? Not that I don't understand the concept, but I don't understand what explains the share price movement. I don't have a valuation model. So if I have got information, because information about a particular stock and about a particular investment will cause you to be able to come up with the intrinsic value of that particular investment. So if you don't have that information, you don't know. I don't invest in things based on sentiment. Sometimes people get very, very excited about an investment and it's all about sentiment. And sometimes sentiment pushes up the value of a share. And therefore that share is overvalued. Those things will crash because markets crash, over time. So when I talk about investing in things that you know, I'm talking about information. That's why people will tell you the market is undervalued. The market is overvalued. They have got information which tells them how to calculate the intrinsic value of the market, and they can compare the price of the market vis-a-vis the intrinsic value. If you don't have a valuation model for a particular investment to calculate its intrinsic value, you do not know that particular investment. And these are things that we'll begin to explain at the brown belt level, the concept of intrinsic value and price vis-a-vis value, right? Because there's a difference between the price of a thing and the value of a thing. When I talk about property investment, what I basically mean, Munyaradzi, is that the way I look at property is that they are not making more of land at the moment. So because there isn't more land, I'm not necessarily limiting myself to investing in a house. I actually believe that you must own land. You must own a building, because and that building must be well located in a place where the accumulation of. So I'm using the term property investment broadly in this presentation to encompass things such as investing in your own primary home. That's a property investment, but also investing in investment properties. You don't stay in that property, you're just buying it as an investment property. I allocate 37%, or I advised Joseph to allocate 37% of his asset base to property. I am very bullish on property. You need to be very selective on the location. I am even incorporating things such as investing in companies that run properties, or even in unit trusts. However you choose to do that, I generally like property, and we'll talk about these things as we go on. But let me just stop there for now, Tafazo.
Thank you very much, Themba. That was very, very, very valuable. Well, I'm really inspired, and I've learned a lot. I hope others have too. Thank you very much for everyone who participated. If you need a speaker at your conference, event, you can write an email or check Themba's website, www.duplexinstitute.com, or you can write an email direct to me, tafazo@tafazomazibukospeaks.co.za, or you can also just visit our website, www.tafazomazibukospeaks.co.za, and you can contact us, and if we're available, or if Themba is available, then you can come and present at your organization, at a church, or at a conference. Thank you very much for the support. We really appreciate. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hope to